Hi everybody, welcome to Andiamo alla Cucina, another episode. Today we're making a very special cheesecake for someone special in my family for their birthday. And we are gonna make it with the flavoring of Disaronno's new liqueur, which is velvet. It's a cream liqueur. It has hints of a very rich vanilla cream, apricot, and toffee flavors. So I'm gonna be adding this to the cheesecake. So you're gonna need 2 pounds of fresh ricotta. This is my homemade ricotta. Okay, so it's nice and dry. You can see, very dry. And in the bowl, I already have 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese. So I'm just adding this in. And I had the eggs at room temperature. They're fresh farm eggs, so they're really nice. The yolk is like very bright yellow, so it's not processed. And so this cake, once again, I will be making it without a base, without the biscotti or crumb base in the bottom, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make cake, and the ricotta cheesecake is going to be in the middle. And I'm still wondering how or what we're gonna do as far as, sometimes I make things as I go along, but I'm thinking because it's like a velvet and it's got that apricot and cream and toffee flavor, I'm thinking I'm going to add possibly a layer of Nutella cream. I think will go really well with it. So let's start with the mixing of this. I have the 2 pounds of ricotta, like I said, fresh ricotta. You can find the recipe for my ricotta on YouTube. So pop that in, popped in the 8 ounces of the mascarpone cheese. I'm using the KitchenAid stand, as you know is my favorite. At least it lets me keep my hands free. And I don't know where you're at, but here where I'm at, it is very hot, hence the hair is pinned up. Okay, I already started my oven. If you're doing this as you're watching the video, you want to turn on your oven, get that ready. So all the cheeses are in. I'm going to go ahead and put the sugar in, and I'll start this mixing. A cup and a half of sugar. I have 2 tablespoons of orange zest. The one good thing about a cheesecake recipe is that if you have a stand mixer, you can just add your items in and just do its own thing. So I'm going to add in a quarter cup of heavy cream, and to that I added the vanilla inside this cup. Just makes it a little bit easier for me, instead of messing up so many dirty dishes to wash up afterwards. I am going to keep this here because I'm going to add the liquid to that. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the velvet cream liqueur. And you can see it's a little beige in color. And I'm going to add a quarter cup of that to the cake mixture here. And I'll probably use it also in the frosting, so I ensure that it has that flavor. And again, it smells really beautiful. If you like the Disaronno's amaretto, you'll like the velvet. Again, it's got like a nice rich cream flavor, vanilla, toffee, and apricot. So it's really nice. It's nice after dinner, shot. Your eggs, I got 6 whole eggs and 2 yolks. I'm going to add them in one at a time. I am going to stop this for a minute and scrape down the sides. I have to tell you, making your own ricotta is so satisfying, especially when you make a delicious cake like this. You know I'm a fan of the Italian cheesecake because to me it just seems lighter. I do make the New York style cheesecake as well. I have a really great recipe for that as well. I just don't find myself making it as often. I find myself making more the ricotta cheesecake because everybody likes it. It's just fluffier to me. Okay. So scrape down a little bit here. And we're gonna add, like I said, an egg at a time so it gets well incorporated. Again, we're not doing a base coat because we're gonna be putting this ricotta cheesecake in the middle of cake layers. I want it to be nice and high. I want it to be totally something different for them, okay? I might even, what I might even do is take, if I wind up having, because I want to make thin layers of the ricotta cheesecake, so I'm using these pans here. So I want to make them about maybe that high. So I might even put some chocolate chips on one of the pans, not sure, so I can have ricotta cheesecake with chocolate chips, in between some Nutella, or maybe a preserve. We'll see as we go along, okay? But I think for this one, I honestly would like to use possibly a preserve if I use the chocolate chips. If I don't use the chocolate chips, then I'll use Nutella. So let's see what happens with this video. All right, we're turning this back on. One egg at a time. And I am going to lower it while I throw in the next egg, because I don't want to get all over me. You can see how really yellow the yolks are. I'm going to scrape this down again. I honestly love making cheesecakes because it's so easy to do, and it takes very little effort, especially if you have a nice cake stand mixer or a good hand mixer. It's quick and easy. There's no oil, there's none of that stuff. Not like when you're making regular cakes, so that's why I like this. It's just easier to do, in my opinion. I hope you guys have been enjoying these videos. Again, check out my videos for mascarpone cheese, for fresh ricotta. Make your own stuff. It's that much easier making it in advance, and you can make the cheesecake whenever. Please remember to follow, like, and share. Invite all your friends on Facebook to join the page. All right, turn this back on. We're gonna add some more eggs, one at a time again. And depending on what speed you have it on, you want to make sure it gets incorporated before you throw the next one in. So if you have it on a fast speed, it's going to get incorporated quicker. And this is the last one. And now I'm just going to really let it whip up good. I'm going to scrape down the sides again. And remember, when you cook your cheesecakes, it's got to go in a bain-marie, so that it's surrounded halfway up the pan with hot water. You want to use very hot water. Okay, and these got to cook Since I'm splitting these up into smaller ones, into 2, possibly even 3, they're gonna cook for less time. But if you were to cook the whole batter at once into one springform pan, you will cook at least 2 hours. But I'll keep an eye on this and I'll know when it's done. I like to see it a little brown on top of the cake. And I'm just mixing this real good. I actually want to take it down and mix it from underneath as well. And you heard my timer go off for the stove. So that's ready. My pans are already pre-greased. All right. One more spin and then we're taking it out. Okay. Take off this paddle attachment. And yes, on this one I'm using my hand because it is thick. And then I'm going to give it a quick mix again with the spatula from the bottom up, make sure that everything's incorporated. You've seen some other of my cheesecake recipes that are really good too. The blueberry one, the limoncello one is delicious. There's different ones you could try out depending on your flavor and what you like. Sometimes I get requests, you know, for new things that come out. People will inbox me and say, hey, could you make this? Could you think of a recipe, you know, for this or that? And I do my best to accommodate. Okay. Alright, just have to rinse off my hands here, and we're going to place these into the pans here. And again, I'm just trying to scrape down the sides. Give them a nice little stir in the bottom. Okay, so for the first one, I truthfully never had any issues doing a cheesecake, not in a spring pan and pulling it out after I greased it really well. And I hope that continues. I actually could make a little one, but I'm just gonna make it in here. This will plump up and then it'll probably sit back down, we'll see. But I want to make a nice tall cake, so and what we'll probably wind up doing as well is dousing the cake with some a simple syrup with the liqueur in it. So it really goes throughout the whole entire cake. Only thing I like about this is that I don't have to put aluminum foil. It goes right into the hot pan, halfway up with water. They're done. I'm preparing these in advance because I like for the, not to rush stuff. You have to let the cheesecake sit overnight and really get nice and set before you try to get them out. But when they do come out of the oven, what I'll do is I will run a knife around the edge on the outside of the pan while it's still like somewhat warm. I'm gonna cool off. Remember, these will go in at 325. Since I broke this up, it'll probably be 1.5 hours. Usually it's about 2 hours, and it could wind up being 2 hours. Just have to take a look at it and see when it's ready. Once you put these in the oven, don't open up your oven, please. Because if it rose already, it's gonna sink right back down. So, in 325 bain marie, okay? And then, once they're done, shut off the oven, leave them in the oven, in the water bath. Just crack the oven open a little bit, pry it open with like a wooden spoon. Let it stay in there another hour. Once that's done, you're gonna take them out. You're gonna let them sit on the counter for about an hour to get room temperature, let them cool down, and then into the fridge they go. All right, so like I said, putting them in the oven. I'll be back once these are ready, and I'll see what kind of cake I'm gonna put on the bottom of these. I think I'm gonna put a couple of chocolate chips in it. Yeah. So, give me a second here. And these are, it's a great bag. It's from Costco, Kirkland Signature brand. It lasts a lifetime. So I'm gonna put in some chocolate chips. So I won't do the Nutella. I'll do a mascarpone frosting. That'll go in between the layers. And so this here, I am gonna push it down with a spoon, because I don't want them on top really. I just want them to get a little bit inside the cake. I should have turned them in, folded them in when I had, I think there was a gnat or a fly. So it's the season, guys. It's very humid and hot out. I have the AC cranking and it feels like nothing because the oven's on. All right, you want to fold in the chocolate chips, but if something you decide later, like I just did, I just gently with a spoon let them sink underneath a little bit. Okay. So into the oven. I'm not going to keep you here just to watch me smother the chocolate chips into the batter. But by the way, I do have to say how proud I am of Italy winning today and in the finals. Very proud of those boys. As you can tell, I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of being Italian. I try everything in my power to keep the traditions going. That's one of my things that I want to do, because there's too many of us, unfortunately nowadays, that our Italian traditions are going by the wayside. So whatever recipes I have that I could share, I will. Okay, these are all done. Into the oven. I'll see you guys back when these are set, and we will have possibly the cakes already ready, so that all we have to do is decorate. I'll have the whipped cream ready, the frosting. All right, thank you. Speak to you guys soon, okay? Don't go away. Hi everybody, welcome back to our second part of the video with the Disaronno's Velvet Ricotta cheesecake with chocolate chips. I am now making the Italian whipped buttercream, which is really, really delicious and very easy to make. It stays nice and stable. So first you have to start with your sugar and your water. You gotta bring that to a boil, make sure the sugar and the water combine real well and that it dissolves. And we wanna measure it. Once it gets to a boil, we're gonna lower it and we're gonna measure it and make sure we're at 235 degrees, at which point we're gonna start whipping our egg whites to get a soft peaks. And then we're gonna pour in the hot sugar into those egg whites and continue to whip. So this is gonna be in parts. So right now, like I said, we're mixing 16 ounces of sugar, which I used my scale to make sure I had the right amount, and 8 ounces of water. And this is still not boiling yet, as you can see. That's why I have the lid on it, but it is dissolving. So I will continue to let this get to temperature. Once it gets to temperature, I will then go ahead and start whipping the egg whites when it's at 235 degrees Fahrenheit. And this way, when I start to pour in, by that time, the egg whites will be to a soft peak and the sugar will be at 240 degrees. And then we'll start pouring it in. Then we're gonna have to let that cool off in the refrigerator, and then we'll add the butter to it. And our secret ingredient, the Disaronno's Velvet Liquor, which I have to tell you, the cheesecake, I already took those out. They're really, really nice. I'm very happy with the result. And what we'll have to do is bake the cakes. I have to tell you, I went into the store to buy cake flour because I was lazy to make my own. But then when I went to the store, surprisingly, again, they didn't have any. Which I think with COVID and all these things are scarce. So I'm gonna make my own cake flour, which is like 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You remove 2 tablespoons, and then you put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in it, and then you sift that really well a couple of times, and there's your cake flour. The cornstarch tenderizes the flour, and why pay more anyway? But I was just trying to be a little lazy and pick it up. But the one ingredient that I said, I'm gonna pick up at the store, and of course it's not there. All right, let me get this up to the degrees, and then we'll start whipping the eggs and pouring in the sugar water. Okay, guys, so the sugar and the water are almost at 235 degrees, so I'm gonna turn on the mixer and get those egg whites with the 1/4 teaspoon of salt to start getting a soft peak, okay? And I'm gonna test that sugar water another minute or two, see if it reached the 240, so then I can shut it off and start putting it in here. I'm not running this too high because I have to keep checking that temperature. It's gotta be the right temperature, so I'm gonna go check it again, be right back. It's almost there, so I'm gonna bring this up a little faster to get those egg whites to get to a soft peak. I love the KitchenAid stand mixer. I don't have to hold the handheld mixer. Makes things a lot easier. Make sure your eggs are at room temperature. I did go ahead and chop up the butter that I'm going to use later because you want it to be soft, not melted, but soft. So while this is still beating, I'm going to give another look at the sugar water. Take a look. It's soft peak, but we're gonna. I don't see if you can see this. See, it's like soft, but I want just a little bit more of a peak to them. So I'm gonna let that whip up a little bit more, and it's right at the correct temperature that that water and sugar, rather, sorry. Yeah, they're fluffing up now, so this is good. All right, so, okay, much better. You can see the peaks. See how it's holding up nicely? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. It's at temperature now, so I'm gonna put this on a medium whip, and I'm gonna slowly pour in that sugar and water mixture. Be careful, because it is hot, okay? So I'll put you guys up there. And you want to run this off the side of the bowl. Just like gradually let it go in. Trying to get every bit of it in there. This does make a mess, by the way. Once you're done with pouring it in here, put it in hot water right away. Because it gets cold, it gets like an icicle. All right, so now what we want are very strong peaks, very stiff peaks, as stiff as you can get it. And this is hot, don't forget. So once we get this to a hot, stiff peak, hard, stiff peak, not hot, hard, stiff peak, then we're gonna take this and put it in the refrigerator, cool off. Then we'll come back and we'll mix the butter in, and the secret ingredient, the Disaronno Velvet. I'm gonna scrape the sides of the bowl real quick and shut off my water. Like I said, I put very hot water. My tap water is very hot in there, so that it melts down that sugar that, because as it gets cold, it gets like an icicle, and it's hard to get, you know, off. It just takes you time to clean it. Just gonna lay that on there. Bring this back up, and we're gonna continue to whip this. Don't be afraid of it, let it whip. As it cools down, because don't forget, we just put 240 degrees of sugar and water. As it cools down, the faster you whip it, it'll cool off. I can feel the bowl is hot. I'm just gonna grab a rag here and that's cold, and just rub the bottom of this as it's whipping it. Hopefully it'll take down the temperature. I don't want to stop whipping it, and I can feel it's hot, so. Let's check and see where we're at. Still too soft, so we're gonna let it whip more. Oopsie. Okay. Let's let this whip some more. I'm going to cheat a little bit and get some ice with water. Take a look. It's got some nice peaks, but I want to try to get a little bit more, so I'm gonna sort of sit this like in an ice bath, the bowl. Try to get this to cool down a little bit. And then this way, when we whip it, hopefully it'll be a little bit better. Now I'm only doing this because I whipped this already for a while, and I know that the sugar is really blended. I don't want the sugar. You wouldn't want to do this when you first put in the sugar water, because you don't want it to get hard. You want it to blend with the egg whites. Okay, that seems to be a little bit better. So let's get this back on. Believe it or not, it's still a little warm, but not as warm as it was, so that's a good thing. I think that's gonna be it. Let's take a look. Still a little runny. I'm not liking that, so I'm gonna whip this just a little bit more. Now remember, this is only egg whites and sugar water, so I'm just gonna put it on medium for a little bit. Try to get some more water incorporated in, air incorporated in there, and I'm gonna just quickly scrape down the sides of the bowl. Okay, making a little bit of a mess there. The sugar also gives a nice shiny coat, like glossiness to the egg whites, which becomes a really pretty frosting. And it's a nice stable frosting too. You can leave it out in room temperature for a good while, so. Mix this up. Okay, that's better. See the stiff peak? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this onto a sheet pan. I'm gonna just scoop it out, plop it onto a sheet pan in heaping spoonsful, and then I will place this in the refrigerator. Once it's nice and cooled off, then I will continue with adding the butter and the Disaronno Velvet. Okay, let me just stand this up over here. And you can see how nice this is. We're just gonna put this out in pieces and put it into the refrigerator. See, it's nice and ribbon. Maybe one day I'll get famous and I'll have a cameraman that'll really help me here, so you guys could see better, but you can see what's coming out. I just feel bad because it's not easy talking, looking into the camera, you guys, and making sure that you guys could see what I'm doing is a little difficult. But we do the best, right? Make sure that you guys are letting me know if you're trying the recipes. Post your pictures, let's see them. And if you have questions, you always feel free to reach out. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can. Trying to get this all out. So this cake, I'm really excited about it because I am going to use the apricot preserves. If you don't have apricot preserves, I would say maybe use orange. Something in the citrus family, even orange, or, I mean, if you really like the chocolate, you could add more chocolate. I put the chocolate chips in the Ricotta cheesecake. So I'm not going to use the Nutella. I'm going to use the apricot preserves because the Disaronno's liquor, the Velvet, has a hint of apricot in it, the cream flavor, and the toffee. So I think that'll work out good. Okay. Guys, we'll be back in a little bit as soon as we get this to cool off. Okay? Okay, guys, I'm back. You can see the egg whites with the sugar, how nice and firm they are. They've been in the refrigerator, so nice and cold. I'm gonna put this back into the stand mixer. And we're gonna start to add the butter into this and whip it. And the Disaronno's Velvet. And that name, I have to tell you, is a little funny to say. You have to look at it and say, Disaronno. It must be someone's last name. I used to always pronounce it differently. This almost feels like a marshmallow, but a soft version. It's not quite dense like a marshmallow. But this is a really great cream. Like I said, it's stable. It's not like the American one. It's got a nice sheen to it because of the sugar that's, you know, been heated, melted, and then incorporated into the egg whites. All right, so I think I got as much as I can of this off. The pan's nice and cold, so therefore I know that's cold. And I left it in there, I guess, a lapse of, fast forward, 20 minutes. Alrighty. This is sticky, I tell you. I'm not one to have my hands dirty, believe it or not. I can't stand my hands to be sticky or anything of that nature. Alright, so. On it goes. Let me rinse my hands again. And while that was getting cold in the refrigerator, I cleaned up all my dishes. So I like to clean as I go. Okay, so you got a good view there. I'm gonna put this up, turn this back on, get to start whipping and start putting in the softened butter. Just putting in a little at a time, letting it whip. And I didn't quote out the ingredients. I put it on the post as usual. And you want to mix this so you don't see any more, you don't see the butter. I'm going to pause there for a minute because we're going to put in the beautiful Disaronno Velvet Cream Liqueur. This is new, and I love the flavor of it. I put it in the Ricotta cheesecake, as you've seen, with the orange zest. I'm putting it in the icing here, in the Italian vanilla cream, and I'm going to put quite a bit. There we go. You could use vanilla, but I choose not to. I'm just going to put that in straight. really didn't want to touch this butter with my hands. So I'm constantly running to the sink, washing my hands, which is a good thing. I'm going to bring this up a notch. Oh, and you can smell that velvet liqueur. I'm telling you, it's so good. Disaronno really did a good job when they made this. And I have to tell you, I love their amaretto. I don't buy any other brand but theirs. So I dedicate this Italian cheesecake to them. It'd be great if they made this their national cake. And this is gonna have to mix for a good while. So, depending on how long this takes, if I see it's gonna take longer than usual, I'm gonna pause here with you guys, and then I will continue once the cakes are done. I'm gonna scrape the sides of this bowl now a little bit. And don't worry about this if it starts looking a little weird to you. It'll come back up. Just have a little patience. It'll look like, you know, the butter is, even though it's room temperature, it still has to be whipped really good. So you're gonna see it break down a little bit, but don't be afraid of that. Just continue to whip it to the consistency that it should be. And then we'll add possibly some color to it. So this is the Italian buttercream. Guys, make sure you like, share, and follow so you don't miss anything. On the YouTube channel, if you click on the little bell on the page, it'll let you know when I post something. So you'll get to see it before you get it even on Facebook. All right, so that's all the butter. Again, we're going to continue to let this whip. Get all that butter done. It might take like 10-15 minutes. Depends. So I'm going to dismiss myself for a moment here. And then when I come back, hopefully I have the cakes made. I was going to do the cake with you too, but it's a really simple recipe. I'll put the ingredients. I'm going to do 2 9-inch pans, and then I'll slice them in half, and I'm going to do a simple syrup on the cake, then put a little bit of the preserves, the ricotta cheesecake, some more preserves, another layer of cake, and so on, so I get a nice height. Okay? All right, guys. We'll catch back up here in a few minutes. Guys, I came back on just to show you how nice and fluffy this is, how it came out. See how nice and creamy? So when I pipe that, it's going to be nice and stable, and it's going to be very creamy. I wind up putting in a splash of vanilla and a little bit more of the velvet liqueur, just to give it a little bit more flavor. I'm going to go ahead and taste it now. Really good. This is not like your American buttercream. It's got a better flavor to it. It's not, how can I say? It's not that pasty taste to it, you know? This is like really nice. So I'm done with it now. I'm gonna put it in a container, And I'm gonna actually pop it in the refrigerator because of the warm weather we're having. I don't wanna leave it out, even though the AC is cranking. Before I go to use it, I'll whip it again, and then I'll pipe it in a bag. So stay tuned. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Took a short break there. So we're gonna get going making the cake portion of the layered ricotta cheesecake with the Disaronno's Velvet Liquor. But I want to show you a quick hack that I'm going to do because I want the cake to come out really special. I don't want it to be like dark around the edges or dry. Like sometimes, if you ever notice when you take a cake out of a pan after you put it in the oven, sometimes it's domed, it's not flat. It's because the sides cook first before the middle does. So that's why the sides are always brown, not as spongy. And then the cake starts to continue to rise in the middle. So we're gonna create a little hack here. You could actually buy the cake strips at Michael's, which I haven't gone around to go and do. I lost mine. But, or misplaced them, I should say. Take aluminum foil, measure the pan, the circumference of the pan, and then you're gonna take a wet paper towel, wet it nicely. It doesn't have to be drenching, but wet. It has to be wet. And then you're gonna make like a band. You're gonna fold this over. And this is gonna be like a strip that goes around the cake pan. Okay, so I already greased I floured my pans ahead of time. Now I'm gonna take this, scoop it underneath, and wrap it right around the corners, right around the edge of the pan. Okay, so now this is gonna keep moisture on the side, and it's gonna cook evenly, and I won't get that dome effect. Okay, see? It's a little strap. The ones at Michael, they're made out of cloth, like a linen, and you wet them, and they stay moist and they fit better. But all right, so I got my 1 2/3 cups of flour. To that, I'm gonna add a cup of sugar, all my dry ingredients, my baking powder and my baking soda, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of baking powder. And we're gonna sift this. I was gonna do this beforehand, but I wanted you guys to see what the sifting does. See all the little balls here of the flour? Look inside the bowl, how nice and smooth it is. It's almost like a fine sand. And that's what we want. And I put the sugar, everything in there. So I just don't want any clumps. So we're sifting. Anything that doesn't sift, you throw out. And really not much, thank God. 2 little bowls. Okay, so we got that part done. It's gonna go into the mixer. I'm gonna use my paddle. And by the way, that the frosting that we made yesterday, that Italian buttercream, is really, really good. I'm excited about using it. So I'm just gonna make this spin a little bit with nothing in it. Make sure I got everything out of it yet. I noticed there's a little bit left. That might have not gotten out. Okay, we're gonna be adding egg whites as we're making a vanilla cake. I don't want it to look yellow, so we're just putting in 3 egg whites. I'm gonna add in my butter. And this is 3/4 cups of butter. And cut it up. It's room temperature, as well as the egg whites for room temperature. And I'm gonna add now, I'm gonna let that spin a little bit more. Let that cream up a little bit. So the good thing about these stand mixers is that they're powerful and they really, now the butter's nice and soft. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my sour cream, which is a half a cup. That's really gonna add moisture to the cake. I'm gonna add 3 teaspoons of vanilla. And I'm gonna spin this. And the only other thing I need to add is a half cup of milk, which I'll go get that now. I'm going to slow this down now. I'm going to add in the half a cup. I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl, but I just want to clean up here. I just don't like all this stuff in front of me. As you cook, I always tell you, take away what you've used so you don't get mixed up with anything. And always pre-measure everything. Have it out before you start. This way you ensure that you're not missing anything. You can look it over, okay? I'm gonna scrape this down real quick. And then these are gonna go into the oven. My oven's almost ready. Once they cool off, we will start to assemble the cake, which I'm excited about, especially with that frosting. Okay. A little spin, and we'll be good to go. Okay, that is it. I'm gonna pour those into the pan, put them into the oven. Once they're cooled off, we'll assemble the layers of cake with the ricotta, the apricot preserves, that beautiful Italian glossy white buttercream frosting. Okay, and I will see you in a few. All right, guys, so I piped the filling, the frosting rather, and I have one of the cakes here, and you can see how spongy it is and nice. We're gonna just put a layer of, little ring around the outside of the cake. And I'm not gonna finish it on the video with you guys because this is gonna take me a while. Okay. This frosting, by the way, is really, really good. I got a mess going on here. So I got the apricot preserves here. And lay that in the middle. If you don't have apricot or you don't like apricot, because I had some people ask me what else they could use. I mean, you could use an orange flavor, raspberry, and I might put some raspberries in between this for color. I'm just gonna spread this around. It's a nice thin layer. I don't wanna overdo it with the preserves, but just enough to, like, you know, coat the cake. This looks really pretty. And then we're gonna put the layer of cheesecake on top of this one, and we're gonna keep going. I had to make another cake, one more cake, because I had the bright idea to try to work fast and get this video going and put it in the freezer. When I went to take it out of the pan, a piece of it stuck. I shouldn't have did that. But I was trying to think quick. Okay. Now, to get this cheesecake, hopefully I don't break it. It's been sitting out. Oops, and I broke it. But it's okay. So it's also 9" too, so it fits nicely. And we're gonna do the same thing here. Let me rinse my hands again. And I made a double batch of the frosting. You can see the cheesecake here. You can see the orange little specks. I'm gonna put this inside because it's getting warm. Temperature's really warm in here with the oven being on. So I'm gonna pop it back in. And I'm gonna continue with this. We're gonna put the other layer of frosting around. And then I'll frost the whole outside of the cake. Okay. Now I'm gonna put the other layer of the cake on. Which this is the one that gave me the trouble in the freezer. You can see where the piece stuck. But it's okay, don't fret. If it cracks a little bit or whatever, it's okay, because you'll fix it when you put your frosting on. And now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put another thing of cream here. And because I'm doing such a layered cake like this, that's why I'm using so much frosting. If you were only doing one cake and you were layering it, you'd only, you know, do the outside of it. So you have to see, if you're doing, I still have a lot of frosting in here, but I'll have to fill it up again, my piping bag. So I'm gonna put some more of the preserves. And I am going to put some raspberries on this layer, because I'm going to decorate the top of it with raspberries and maybe some strawberries and blueberries or blackberries. Anything in the berry family, depends on what I have going on. So you see how that's nice and moist in there. Now I'm gonna wait for that other cheesecake to get cold again because I had it out too long, and that's why it started to crack when I picked it up. But you can see when I had it, it was fine. And it's okay because once I put this back in the refrigerator, it's gonna get cold again, it's gonna set. I'm gonna put the other layer of cheesecake on, and then one more layer of cake, and then I'll decorate it and I will show pictures of how it came out. Thanks again, guys. Take care.